Welcome everyone to Sangha. We seek truth without a seeker. That's what I'd like to discuss tonight. So there's this impulse to seek. And this impulse to seek continues even when the personal seeking of the ego falls away. So personal seeking can fall away. In other words, seeking to gain something personally can fall away. But the impulse to seek remains. So the impulse to seek, this kind of deep yearning for the truth, comes from something much deeper. It comes from, you could say, wholeness or spirit, and not from the ego. So it's, in a sense, consciousness seeking to become self-aware. So it's no longer an ego, seeking some personal gain, achieving enlightenment, being happy, even being more compassionate. It's a deeper impulse coming from consciousness or spirit. And this is really what we tune into with our seeking. So this is why I say it's seeking without a seeker. There's the impulse to seek that comes from spirit still operating without the personal sense of wanting something out of it. At some point in this practice, you realize that personal seeking actually blocks consciousness. That the more doing that we engage in that's of a personal nature, of an egoic nature, the more that we block our realizations, insights, and consciousness itself. So this is why it's so important to notice this aspect of personal seeking. And in many ways, we don't stop it, because that's just more seeking. If we seek not to seek anymore, that's just more ego trying not to seek, becomes more seeking. So in many ways, what this is all about is we tend to feverishly seek. We feverishly do more and more until there's nothing left to do. In a way, we exhaust ourselves of doing. So that's one important point to recognize. It's also important to recognize that how this deeper spiritual impulse can be kind of taken over by the ego. That deeper impulse is always there. That's what draws you to groups like this. It's this deeper impulse. But the ego can take it and turn it into something that happens to a little me. Have you noticed that? The ego is quite adept at taking this yearning and kind of turning it around and turning it into wants and desires of an egoic sense. So it's at a basic level, this involves the dissolving of all our ideas about what truth is and what we need to do to find truth. It's really surrendering into the unknown and letting go of all these ideas that the egoic mind has about what truth is and what we should do to find truth. In fact, if you want to know what truth is, one way to boil it down is to notice that if there's an idea about truth, that's not truth. So if you think truth is one thing, it's being a certain way, or it means this, that means you can kind of put that aside as that's not what it is. So we really release these ideas about what truth is. We release into the unknown. We release the doing, the personal doing of the seeker. And of course, this doesn't mean that we just kind of sit back and do nothing and wait for some grace to fall upon us. It doesn't mean that. Rumi, a quote I like from the poet Rumi is, "I've been a seeker and I still am, but I stopped asking the books and the stars. I started listening to the teaching of my soul." So he's seeking, but he's seeking from this deeper place, not from the realm of ideas and stars and the stars. So I'm pointing to one of our often deepest identifications. So along this path, we've been looking at the ego falling away or transcending the ego in a temporary sense. And so we're allowing these egoic patterns to be seen and to be released. And we may often find, especially if we're seekers that spend a lot of their time doing spiritual things, that one of our deepest identifications may be that as a spiritual seeker.